Hey everyone, Elaine Beck here with It's Not About Us, because it's not. And you know, we're on CPAC now, and we are so excited to be here. And we have Paulina Luna with us. And that's very exciting because this entire series is all about the wonderful 20 people who stood together for you on behalf of the people of this country and said, things have got to change. And they stood together long enough to make it happen. And I am here, Anna, just to explain to you how grateful the people of this country are for what you did.
Thank you.
We want to thank you. And, you know, I'm sitting here looking at this beautiful young lady who I don't think any of us can really realize the power that God gives us sometimes and appreciate enough that He's put us in this wonderful place at this time, for a time such as this, to make a difference in our world. And you should be very proud of yourself, young lady.
I am. It's been an incredible experience, but we had a lot of good people. And, you know, through that entire negotiating time, I think, you know, once you cross that Rubicon and basically metaphorically burn the boats, you realize there's really no turning back.
Yeah.
But what was even more wild was to see how the media was really weaponized against us and was really not being truthful with the American people. So
are they ever?
No, but like even sometimes people that we thought would be on our side, they were not actually telling them what was happening, that we were actually going through negotiating, and the way that they portrayed us. It was just, you know, Congress is supposed to have these debates and we're supposed to talk to each other.
That's right.
And so I think it was actually rather healthy. And what we found is after the list of concessions was made public, we actually had people in the cloakroom, which is a room that we go to that's right off the House floor. They have grilled cheeses back there that I always eat.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, it's good. But we had other members say, look, we actually really like some of these negotiations and concessions. And thank you for being principled. And we're really excited to have the majority together. So I think it was a net positive, and I know that there's been a lot of good things that have come of it, and we're actually seeing it today. So, when I was on the floor, we were actually supposed to be voting on something like 148 amendments, but because we had negotiated some of these things like single subject germaneness, meaning they can't put a bunch of crazy stuff into these bills if it doesn't apply to the bill.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. And you love it. And they gave you time to read it. Maybe not as much as you'd like, but so much more than you had before.
Exactly.
I mean, these are all very, very, very important issues. And as I've explained to other people, it's like, you know, you can only do things so many times the wrong way before the light bulb goes on and you realize that you're getting nowhere fast.
100%. And I will say that with what the concessions that we got, really I think the most important thing was the Jeffersonian motion to vacate. And really what that is it's an accountability mechanism for the Speaker of the House. I will say this to Speaker McCarthy's credit. He actually gave back the traditional Jeffersonian motion to vacate. And that means that any one member can come to the floor if we disagree, and we can hold the Speaker accountable, which is how we've really, I think, defined ourselves against the Senate, because there is a dangerous consolidation of power in the Senate. And now in the House, we actually more as representatives, not just have a voice amongst each other, an equal voice to what was previously done under Pelosi, but we can actually represent our constituents, and that's what it's all about. And so, you know, these concessions, we also too have a pledge to vote on term limits. And so I've co-sponsored that bill with Representative Ralph Norman. We're also going to be voting on the Texas border plan, and then obviously establishing that church committee that's going to be looking into some of this government corruption is incredibly important.
Honey, that just, you know, that's music to my ears, and I'm sure it will be to everybody that listens to this, because each time I interview somebody, the beauty of when you do it 20 times, you hear every little angle and some of the beautiful things, that the outcomes that we're looking for that are going to happen, that this standing together and rewriting the rules in a way that, you know, benefits every person in this country at some point or another, and in so many different ways. It's amazing. So I just love when you share the stories. Any personal little story, fun things that you did or happened while you were in that state of disagreement?
Yeah, so actually at one point, Representative Thomas Massey, who, as you know, Representative Massey, it was literally one of the people that worked with former Representative Mark Meadows to actually lead out the coup against Boehner. And so I remember Representative Massey coming in, and Massey was supporting now Speaker McCarthy. But he said, look, these negotiations are incredibly powerful in changing the actual institution and the way Congress functions.
Right.
And he goes, if you guys pull this off, you guys are going to be able to actually do something that I've been trying to do for like 10 years and haven't been able to accomplish. Just in a couple of days, you guys are actually going to get this done. So like keep doing what you're doing. But it was an interesting time that it happened because we were in a heavy debate with the 20 of us, and we were actually in the downstairs conference room at CPI, and he came in right as we were discussing the concessions, which was kind of, I think, God's timing, right? He
Absolutely.
He goes,
it was
I felt
God.
called to be
agree.
here. And he's like, my car is running out front. And he was out of breath. And I was like, you came literally at the perfect time. Thank you, Massey. So now he's actually going to be on the Rules Committee. And that was another important thing, is that conservatives and our ideologies were not being fairly represented in a lot of the legislation that was being brought to the floor of Congress. And the Rules Committee actually establishes a legislation for the entire country.
Sure.
So you want to make sure that you actually have people that might think that excess spending is a bad thing, or might want to embrace the Second Amendment and protect it.
Right.
And so we were able to ensure that we have fair representation on various committees like that. And Representative Massey is actually one of those members on Rules. So we're very happy to see that.
I think that's wonderful. One of the other gentlemen had brought up about him coming, and he made me laugh because he said, you know, I parked my car in the middle of the road because there was no place to park, and I don't even care if they tow it away. I needed to come in here.
Yeah.
So that's powerful.
Yeah.
And I see the whole week that way. I know we were at a convention down in Mar-a-Lago, and so we had a huge group, probably 60 people, that were meeting together every day while you guys were meeting together. And we were all just talking and talking and talking. And what did you hear last? And did you see this? And did you see that? And praying for you and applauding. And I mean, literally, we were so excited about watching it and determined with you. And because we could see that people really were saying no, and I have a great belief in that word. You know, in the Bible it says, "Let your no be no and your yes be yes." Period.
Yeah.
You know, that all this other stuff is, you know, it's just blather. It's not anything that means anything, and it's of the evil one. It says that in the Bible. So to me, you either are, yes, this is exactly what we need, or no, it's not. And for too many years now, we've been living in this gray area of, oh, well, let's go along, whatever. And now all of a sudden, we're back to looking at what God wants, what our country needs. And now you guys stood up together in that. What a beautiful picture.
It's been pretty surreal. A lot of people were like, what were you thinking? You know, you're a freshman. Why? And I was like, well, I'm an idealist. So I actually, from the beginning, I made it known my position. I wasn't hiding the ball. But I will say that now that all is said and done,
right, I
think that we're actually seeing, you know, in Speaker McCarthy, the leadership that we need. We saw him really rebuke some of the lies that the mainstream media is pushing about Adam Schiff and
wonderful
Eric Swalwell. And I think that because of that healthy discussion and debate, and if you want to call it a quote unquote fight, but because of that, we were able to really, I think, re-energize the Republican Party. And so there's a lot of people that are like, all right, well, we're working together now. Everyone likes the rules. And now we have one mission, and that's to prevent the destruction of this country. And so we're doing everything we can to do that.
Yeah, well, I always picture Jesus walking into the temple and seeing
turning
them
tables.
doing terrible things. And he's flipping the tables over and whipping the animals to get them out of of the temple and stuff. And I'm going, you know, but yet we want everything to be oh, so nice and copacetic and everybody get along now. There shouldn't be any disagreement. The world doesn't work that way. And that's one of the reasons I was so proud of y'all, because you didn't step back, and there was quite a few of you that were freshmen. And to me, it's like, that takes even more courage, because you walked in and this was your first impression. You were not afraid to let your first impression be a lasting impression. Now they're going to know who they're up against and what they're up against. And it's nothing bad. It's great. It's great to know where you stand. It's great to know that your heart is in the right place. Your constituents have seen it.
Yeah.
Your fellow people that you're working with have seen it. And, you'll get more respect by standing for what you believe in than anything else on earth.
Well, I also think too, now, like you brought up, my constituents, they know and they trust me. And that's so hard to build as a politician.
Right.
Because people are so upset with how the process has functioned up here for too long. And it's like, you hear, I when this whole speaker fight was going down, I wasn't even sworn in as a member of Congress.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
I got sworn in the dead of night. Like, it was literally something out of a movie. But we have so many people that are like, you know what? You did something that we agree with. I even had independents saying, we actually agree with this, because it takes back control from the speaker, which belongs in the hands of the representatives, which is everything that our country is founded upon. So, like, actually to get other people say we agree with this is rare to see, but I think everyone knew that it was an institutional change. But even aside from that, I'm not going to do this forever. Like I said earlier, I'm a fan of term limits for a reason. But, you have people that have been up here for a really long time. And I think at a certain point, when you are up here for that long, you somewhat lose touch with what's important to the American people, because realistically, we're up in D.C. about half the year, but we're up here, that breaks down to really Monday through Friday, we're up here. And then we go back home. And so, you're not as plugged into the community. And so I think that, once I'm done here, I'll be done with politics. I'm going to hang up my hat. But I think right now we're on a good track. And so I can help out in the way that I'm hoping to. One of my biggest focuses is big tech. And I think that we have the right group of people to take on that mountain.
I don't believe you'll hang up your hat. I see you as a young woman who's married. And as you shared with me, has a couple dogs.
And chickens.
But no family yet. And I can see you getting interested in the school board. And even if you're not on it, you will still play a big part in the decision making, because you love what you're doing. You see it in your smile and in your voice and in your strength. And we know that, you put God and country first. And I don't think you'll be doing any sleeping on the job after this. But no. I do understand that you're not thinking about, moving up the ladder to become president or anything. But who knows?
That seems like probably one of the most stressful jobs in the country, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were talking about really what a favor you guys did for Kevin McCarthy. And Andy Biggs was sharing, he's a changed man. I said,
really
of course
is.
he is.
Yeah.
You know why he is? Because you took the pressure off of him. You made the decisions for him of how things need to be done. All he's got to do is go through the motions, more or less, in many of these areas. You took great pressure off of him.
Yeah, and I think, in talking with President Trump and kind of explaining what was happening, because President Trump was very involved in this entire thing.
Right.
I think mainly to understand, like, what is the deal, and ensuring that, everything that happened was on behalf of the American people. But I remember, and just through this entire time, because we were working, oh my gosh, crazy hours negotiating. I mean, I wasn't getting home to bed till maybe midnight every night, and then we'd go back and do it again the next morning. And in between votes, we'd be running to Representative Emmer's office to look through some of the negotiations. But I mean, during this entire time, I remember that photo of President Trump walking off of Marine One, and he has his tie undone. He just looks exhausted.
Right.
But that's literally the type of person you want fighting praying for you because you know that they're giving their heart and soul into it. So,
right. Well, what part did he play in the negotiations? Can you share that with the people?
So he was definitely, I think, the key factor in finalizing the deal. And of course, President Trump knows the art of the deal.
He certainly does. Yeah, he wrote it.
But from the beginning, he goes, I think, Kevin, give him a chance. And he's like, the negotiations sound good. And he was very instrumental the entire time. Wonderful. And I think at the end there, I mean, as you know, he made some phone calls. And I think that probably President Trump, for as much as the mainstream media would like to hide this information, if there was a 21st person, it would have been him. So,
yeah, I believe you're right. And thank you for sharing that with everyone, because they need to hear these things. We all listen to what I call the evil news.
Yeah, that's right. It's really propaganda.
It's all propaganda. It's all lies. It's all what they want you to know, and what they don't want you to know is hidden from you. And the reality is that there's so many wonderful people, and it's not just the 20. It's like I say on each of these, please remember, we're not saying the other people are unimportant. Of course they are. And you know what? They learned one way, you learned another way. But we should all come together now and be together. Mm-hmm. I think this was one of the biggest and best moves to actually bring the Democratic House together, because now they can see that they don't have to shy away from speaking up and standing up. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see more of this. I think we're going to see major changes in many areas, and that's my prayer.
Yeah. I mean, it was also too interesting seeing that the whole time the senators, our conservative senators, were kind of looking over and saying, all right, we like what you guys are doing.
Right.
And they know now, too, that especially with what's happening with raising the debt ceiling or talk of it, that Biden seems to think that he can control everything, and he can't.
No.
And we will not play games with the American people's future. And I think that they know that now. And so Senator Rand Paul actually put out a very impressive video where he discusses all of this. But it is good to kind of see some of the members in the Senate take an interest in what we're doing in the House. Obviously, you want to have those relationships, but knowing that we're doing the right thing. So we have a lot of good people behind us. It was really neat seeing people reach out, people that I never expected to reach out, that, were kind of giving us the encouragement that we needed, because it was a barrage of, it was a pressure cooker the entire time, but we got it done.
Sure it was. But I say this, every relationship has times when the pressure cooker is heated up. Mm-hmm. But it's through those times, even our relationship with Christ is one that it's through the times when we have to cry out to him, mm-hmm. that he hears the true heart of who we are, and he makes the changes. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
And I also, too, want to remind people that, we may have done the negotiating, but the entire Republican conference accepted these rules.
That's right.
And so it's not just the 20 of us. It is the rest of the Republican Party, because they accepted that. So
amen.
God works in special ways.
Yes, he does. Always.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have to get us closed up here in a minute. But thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
And thank you for being part of this story, because we're trying to tell a story with the people that were actually there, and to hear their heart, because the people out there need to know who you are, and they'll be more comfortable to reach out to you. And I know that's what you want.
100%. Yeah. And we thank you for your support. And they can all follow me on my social media. I have my official accounts at Rep Luna. So on Twitter and Instagram. And then if they want to check me out personally on Instagram, at Real Anna Paulina.
I love that. I like the real word.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's great to be real.
Of course.
So we're going to close for now, guys. Thank you for coming by today and listening to one more of the beautiful stories of a person who stood by to help you. Please pray for her and all of the people who are in charge of our country. And remember that, God does have the answers, and go to him when you have trials. We love you all. We're praying for you, and we'll see you next time on CPAC. It's Not About Us.